So, it's called Meeting Jack. Well, the first time I saw him was in Chumley Saloon in 1957, not long after the publication of his traveler's tome that put him on the map forever. He sat in the corner of the bar muttering to himself and drinking scotch or whiskey or some other amber-colored drink, and I had had far too many and could hardly see. He was taking long swigs, finishing one and ordering another, putting them back like water, trying to kill whatever ghost it was that haunted him. By then I had read the book 3 times, finished it and starting again from page 1, and looked at the man with awe, as one looks at their idol, as one looks at the person they wish to become. I wanted to be like him, was trying to write that great American novel to be the new voice of a new generation. My hand shook by being in the same bar, and I knew I had to talk to him. It was with nervous apprehension that I walked to the bathroom, pissed, washed my hands, and looked in the mirror to conjure a quiet confidence to raise it from the gallon or so booze it merited. What little that wasn't drowned was negated, for when I walked from the bathroom, he was gone. His spot at the bar cleared away as if he was never there in the first place. It was the end of September, a cool day with hints of cooler weather on the way, but I hardly knew it because I had been in the bar for hours. I was trying to be a writer then, living in the cramped studio in the West Village, penning stories during the day and drinking all night and half sick all the time. I had been in New York 5 months, living on a near-depleted trust fund, and I had no idea what the hell I would do when it was gone, but hardly gave a shit anyways and knew I would figure it out. I was on year 3, for writing anyway, surprising given my propensity for hobbies, always fleeting, exchanging old for new and never sticking to one very long. I rarely stuck with anything very long, and rarer was it that I actually finished something, anything. I've always found it easier that way. New passions bring new hope, or the ability to hope a little longer in a way of never really failing, only exchanging. After I had seen Jack in the bar, I became inspired. I started writing more, not in the amount of hours, but in the level of efficiency. I didn't let my mind wander as much, didn't sit idly around my apartment staring at the walls during that curious intermission between writing and drinking. I still frequented bars just as much as before, maybe even a little more, as I was on a quest to find Jack again, to talk to him, to ask him what it takes to be a writer, and identify the elusive mysteries that were stifling my own ability to publish. I would walk in one, have a drink, and walk to another, always looking for Jack, but never finding him, always asking, drinking and absconding and getting rip-roaring drunk in the process. It went on this way for months, continued on after my trust fund finally depleted, always a month behind rent, working shit hours at a shit job, writing and drinking on the clock, and losing one job because of it, and then finding another. And I still looked for Jack in all the hold haunts he was rumored to be, still looked but never found. When February came around, I started to lose heart in the endeavor, began to let my writing slide, and started to settle on a job I compromised myself for. Though it was something I was able to do without much effort, I wrote less, walked into bars less, drank less. When I did drink, I only casually looked around, out of habit more than anything. During the height of my creative impulses, I wrote every day. In the thick of winter, working, I wrote 4 or 5 days, and by February, I wrote 2 days a week, not very long, and to call it good writing would distress even the most imaginative mind. The rising temperatures of March brought a feeble resurgence to my writing, bringing my efforts again to 4 or 5 days a week. I had a half-finished manuscript and a dozen or so shoddily constructed short stories that were neither works in progress or finished. Abandoned, really, rambling thoughts and cardboard characters hardly worth the paper they were written on. I hadn't worked on the book since December, didn't think I would work on it again, stuck, but March brought creative winds that found me with new ideas, and, well, I embraced them. I stayed this way halfway through April when I unsurprisingly hit a wall. I lost heart again and stored the manuscript back beneath my bed for safekeeping. I didn't want to look at it, acknowledge it. My hours at work were cut, and just as quickly my solvency was flung from the window and I was at a crossroads. I could pay my rent, but would have just enough to buy another ribbon for my typewriter that pounded only imprints of letters, like footprints in the snow, or say the hell with it all for a good night of drinking. I could do only 2. My situation depressed me, left me feeling near hopeless, so I paid my rent and went out for a good hard drunk that I would maintain for as long as I could. And of course that was when I found Jack. He was in the same bar I saw him before, Chumley's, which seemed years in the past, though only 7 months had passed. He occupied the same corner stool and talked to himself, knocking him back and ordering more. The bar was half full, 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and I sat at the stool right next to him. I was bone sober, carried a sober nervousness that I could cure with drink, but didn't have the time or the money. He looked up at me from the corner of his eye before carrying on as before. I nodded to him, but he didn't see, staring back at his drink and continuing to mutter to himself. He wore khaki pants, a wrinkled button-up shirt, hair slicked back and clean-shaven. I could only stare, seeing but hardly believing, wanting to reach out and touch the man just to make sure it was him, that I wasn't delusional, delirious. "How's it going?" I asked, nervous as hell and shaking. "How are you?" he replied, stating in politeness, not asking. He spoke with a slow, almost southern-like drawl, tinged with a French accent nearly undetectable. He was spastic and fidgety. He finished one drink just as the bartender took my order, and in an act of courage I ordered one for him, whatever he was drinking. He ordered cognac. I was silent while she went away. He didn't look over, only straight ahead, down, picking lint from his pants and speaking under his breath. I listened to my own breathing, my own heart pounding, watching the smoke rising from the cigarettes of the patrons of the bar. Everything still and quiet other than the bedlam erupting within me. And our drinks finally arrived. "Thank you," Jack said. Jack Kerouac, the name running through my mind over and over like a mantra. It was the only thing I could do to believe it. Looking over, saying it, the name I had read, had heard about, had thought about, the man who had penned the best book I had ever read, a foot away. "No problem," I said as confidently as I could, as though I didn't know who he was. I doubted it came out that way, though. He drank half the cognac in a single gulp. "I'm a writer," I said, "not a very good one." He nodded, still looking at the drink in front of him, staring at it, as if it were about to jump from him and scatter from the bar. "I was wondering if you had any tips for me." He looked over with disgust. He looked and said he had heard the same damn thing a million times and was sick of hearing it. My heart was in my throat. He took the rest of the cognac down, and I thought he was going to leave. He didn't, though. And when the bartender came back around, he'd order another, and then one for me. I couldn't believe it, and all at once I relaxed. "The thing with writing," he said, slowly, drawing the words out confidently, soberly, "is that you can't think about it too much. Too much thought brings doubt, and self-doubt is the biggest killer of creativity there is." Our drinks arrived. Jack dropped his back in a single gulp, and then all of it. He stood from the stool and turned to me a final time before I could say anything. "Always remember, first thought is best thought. All else is self-doubt and insecurity," he said. Then turned and left the bar. All I could do was say thanks and watch him leave. I sat in silence, sat while Jack's empty glass was cleared away at the bar, wiped clean. I sat sipping the two full drinks in front of me, thoughts swirling in my mind racing to feel them all, but only absently feeling any of them, nearly numb, too cluttered to think clearly at all. I drank what I had left, lost ambition in drinking further, and wandered home. I pulled the manuscript from beneath the bed, thumbed through it, and began writing by hand. I vowed to buy a new ribbon the minute I had enough money, but felt more than comfortable writing by hand in the meantime. I wrote the night away, woke up early, and continued on. How long the inspiration might last, how long Jack's words of encouragement might echo, I had no idea. But I was damned determined to write the way they still did. So that was the night I met Jack Kerouac, the night he bought me a drink and offered up golden nuggets of information. As for the novel, well, I rarely stick with anything for very long. That's it.